Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever time you're tuning into us from. Thanks for coming back and checking out the Truck Around and Find Out podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Byers, the owner of Front Range Compliance, DOT University, where we're here to offer you some good solutions to your safety and your compliance programs. Unfortunately, Keith couldn't be with us again today. Keith, we do miss you. We're going to get you definitely back on our next recording, but I know you've been super busy. But yeah, we're, of course, really happy to get you back in here for the recordings for these lovely topics we're going to talk about. The Truck Around and Find Out podcast, where we're here to kind of talk to you about some of the fun stuff going around in the trucking industry, some things that are kind of happening in our own personal lives, and just want to keep everybody engaged, get you some good news, some good information, stuff that's going on. A lot has been happening. I guess I should mention we do have the Red Beard here also today, Mr. Luke. How you doing, Luke?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Okay, hopefully we can get Luke talking on some of these topics. He got real excited on the last one. His eyes got real wide when I started to mention that. So we're going to have to tell Luke, simmer down, boy, simmer down. All right. So that being said, I got three topics I really want to kind of bring up today that's kind of going on here in Colorado, but also nationwide. The first one I want to talk to you about is this stuff that is happening with the CDL licenses. So this kind of goes back to right just before Christmas. So it all kind of started, came out about December 22nd. And basically what happened is we got a little grudge match going between the feds and the state of Colorado. And, the feds got real fed up with the state of Colorado and their CDL license issuance and the programs, kind of accused the state of Colorado of slow walking, just not taking them serious. So they threatened to withhold $24 million in federal funding over this their state of Colorado's response to CDLs. So basically, if you go back into July when they did their big federal audit on all the licensing and everything that was going on with that back over the summer, the feds determined that state of Colorado overall had issued 22% of all CDL licenses inappropriately. And 22% went to people that were not qualified, weren't here legally, whatever the cases could be. You name it. 22% of the licenses. And when they confronted state of Colorado with it, they just weren't getting anywhere. The things weren't happening. So they threatened to withhold this $24 million. And, when that happens, that's, the state of Colorado uses that money to fund, their motor carrier safety and their safety programs and other infrastructure for commercial motor vehicle traffic in association with transportation. And apparently $24 million withheld finally kind of woke up state of Colorado. So this all kind of went down on the 23rd or on the 22nd. And then the state of Colorado responded on the very next day, on the 23rd, and they went through and announced that, okay, we're taking this serious, and they canceled, kind of a swath of licenses. A grand total of 262 licenses got canceled. Now, I don't know about 22% and 262 for the entire state, but to me, that number seems a little low. How about you, Red Bear?
Just a little bit low.
Seems a little low. So I guess what I'm trying to bring up with this is that their mass cancellations, we did have some of our clients that were affected. So, of course, we started getting the notices. And basically what they did was they canceled the CDL of the individual that was here on a temporary visa. So they had a temporary CDL. And they downgraded them to what's called a Colorado Class R license. So that'd be just a regular non-CDL driver's license. Basically this new process is they are not going to issue temporary work visas, a CDL. So somebody would have to be here on a permanent status or be here legally, whichever the case could be. So this big cancellation canceled 262. What happened was they canceled the license and then they sent out that written notification. That written notification was, hey, your license has been canceled. And, as that works, as many of you know that are listening, when you are running your driver qualifications, you do that MVR when you first hire somebody, and then you do it once a year. And in between, unless you're set up on one of those monitoring systems or something like that, which, just so you know, those monitoring systems are still typically about 90 days behind. So, you're paying for what you think you're getting right away, but let's be honest, you're really not, and you're paying an exorbitant amount of money for that. But what happened was is they canceled this guy's license. This guy was, of course, open with his company, let him know. But what we're also discovering is a lot of drivers aren't so forthcoming with that information. So next thing you know, you as a motor carrier, you're getting hit for using a driver with a suspended or revoked or canceled CDL, and you know how that affects your overall safety rating. So you're going to want to really take a good hard look into your driver qualifications, make sure that these drivers that are going through that maybe here temporary work status and that type of thing, maybe they had a CDL issued. You need to really take a close look. They may have had that license canceled. So when you run some MVRs, I would most definitely, some of my clients that want to do that monitoring, our attack to that is we will run them MVRs more frequently, and we're still cheaper than the monitoring service. But, take a look. I would just do a full scale run of your MVRs. Just make sure everybody's licenses are good, that you don't have any sudden surprises when you get pulled over for a roadside inspection, something that would affect your safety rating. So check those licenses and make sure that your drivers are each properly qualified and that type of thing, because I think that this is kind of one of those situations that we saw the initial 262, and I'm kind of thinking that Mr. Sean Duffy, the director of transportation up there in Washington, I have a feeling he's going to look at that and probably give the state of Colorado a rude gesture and says try again. So we'll kind of see what happens. I don't really know where it's going to go, whichever they do on this, but this is definitely something that you are going to need to keep an eye out. And it doesn't just affect everybody here in Colorado. This is something that, many states have kind of had their hands in this, as far as, releasing information. Here at Front Range Compliance, I did put together a memorandum for all of our clients, and we sent that out. If that's something that you want to see just for some information on this and that kind of thing, hey, that's great. Reach out to us at info@frontrangecompliance.com. That's info@frontrangecompliance.com. And I'll have Redbeard shoot you that memorandum right over so you could kind of see what the plan of attack is and how to avoid potential violations with that, and what, in my opinion, the correct ways of trying to deal with this internally, because it's going to affect a lot of companies. And I think in the next upcoming months, days, weeks, you name it, we're probably going to see some more mass cancellations. But through this, one of the things that audit discovered, that since it wasn't just Colorado, there's a good handful of states that really had some problems within their licenses. So if you do have, especially some temporary visa individuals that have received a CDL, something you really want to be aware of, because there may be a cancellation coming with that license. New York was one of the states. It looks like Colorado, obviously, California, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Texas, and South Dakota are some of the states that have been listed for improperly listing some of the licenses. So just keep an eye on those licenses, make sure, and on those drivers, and start your processes now, whatever you need to do to make sure that you don't take a CDL violation in the future. So be very, very aware of this little situation. Like I said, reach out to us. We'll get you a copy of that memo right over, and that should help you and your team. I think there's going to be a lot going on with that. Just within, as we've kind of been watching with the English proficiency stuff going on, and then the licenses have been issued, just basically off of the sheer number of serious crashes that we have seen, due to social media. You get that information, just goes out, it goes viral. So it's not just, one here or there. There's been a lot of really serious and dangerous situations. And we as an industry, we're all pretty well practiced at trying to have some of the absolute safest and the best drivers. I mean, most of us all have employed good professional CDL holders that license is part of their livelihood, and they are, without a doubt, y'all are some of the best drivers out there on the roadway. But as the old saying goes, it only takes one bad apple to spoil the bunch. And we're kind of in a mess right now with some of these serious crashes and situations that are happening out there. So do your part, right? Make sure that you checking those drivers, checking their qualifications, and it all starts in the beginning when you first hire them. That driver qualification process, I cannot state just how important that overall is to make sure that you, your drivers, your company, and everybody are protected. I mean, you have to worry about these crashes, but you also have to worry about this severe litigation, these nuclear verdicts. I mean, every state you're in, you're seeing the billboard attorneys. They're everywhere, and they're just kind of lurking, just waiting for a chance. So, I think the recent ads I see are, did you get hit by a truck? Not were you injured or whatever else. I mean, these companies, these lawyers know they've turned this into a big business. They know that if they got hit with a truck, that you've got big insurance pockets, and these lawsuits are out of control. They are causing the industry to suffer. They're causing companies to shut down. It is just a big hit. So we need to do our part so we as an industry can bounce back. And it takes you guys to keep America moving forward. So keep an eye on that. But again, just to be aware of. All right. Well, Luke, the second thing I kind of wanted to talk about here was Colorado is now going to be issuing civil penalties for speeding. Looks like it's happening right now just on Colorado 119. If you work up here in the northern Colorado area, that is going to be the stretch of highway that stretches between Boulder and Longmont. And so I would imagine this is probably going to be a test run. And as this is seeing success, which is based on the information that's coming out of it, Colorado Department of Transportation is pretty much declaring it a success. They're showing the numbers are really making a big impact. So I think that's something that we're going to see. And I think I talked about it a while back, that new state of Colorado, the enforcement, where they got the cameras that go up over the roadway and they're looking for distracted drivers, and then the troopers sitting down the road, so they'll see you, they'll see the distraction, and then the troopers are pulling you over. Luke, have you been pulled over yet?
Not yet, but
Yeah.
I stay off my devices when I drive. I'm an old lady when it comes to the roadways. So.
Well, let me tell you, Redbeard is probably one of the safest drivers I know. I should knock on wood here real quick because, I don't want to jinx anybody here. But, he is usually when he's driving and I'm in the passenger seat, I definitely make some grandma jokes to him. Grandma, sorry, no offense. But, here's the thing. This is a pretty serious deal. They're using cameras to monitor. Yep. And if they pick you up speeding 10 miles an hour or more over the roadway, and this isn't just trucks included, of course, but it's all Colorado motorists. If you are speeding in that section of highway, it is monitored by camera. Now, it looks like what's going to happen is your first offense, if you get picked up for speeding, they're going to send you a letter warning you, letting you know, hey, we're taking this serious. And then after that, you're going to get a civil penalty for a whopping $75 per offense for any time you're speeding 10 plus mile an hour over the speed limit, with the entire act of getting everybody slowed down. So they kind of go on and they talk about this whole situation. They talk about how, in 2024, 2023, that the fatality crashes and the crashes were just through the rate. And I kind of want to ask, why? Why were the crashes through the roof? And, you go back, I don't know, to 2020, something happened in this country. And I think enforcement just kind of disappeared. We didn't see them on the roadway. Yeah. The interstates around here and the highways that I travel on, I felt like I was in Germany driving on the Autobahn. It used to be if you were doing 5 miles over the speed limit, you might actually pass some people. But it seems like if you were doing the speed limit or 5 over the speed limit, you were getting your doors blown off by everybody. And I think that just kind of created an environment. And after COVID ended, we still didn't see a whole lot of enforcement, but everybody kept speeding. Mm-hmm. So commercial vehicles were to some of them, again, some of the most safest drivers we have. The biggest thing about that is when you're in a commercial vehicle, it's not just your vehicle you got to worry about. It's the knuckleheads driving around you that are some of your biggest threats. So we do need to get that motoring public slowed down. When you take the fact that they're not only speeding, but they're also staring at their phone or watching Netflix while they're driving down the road, just absolute recipe for disaster. So with that being said, we got a lot going on with this civil penalty situation, with these speed cameras monitoring this short little section of highway between Boulder and Longmont on U.S. Highway 119, or Colorado Highway 119, I should say. Be aware when you're traveling on that, but also as we start to see this program grow, I would completely imagine that CDOT, the Colorado Department of Transportation, is going to be pushing this forward to some of the other major highways and that. So this is probably going to be a statewide thing to get everybody slowed down, you know. And I mean, it kind of works, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it does. It's like if you know you're going to get $75, I know I don't want to pay the government any more money than I absolutely have to.
Yeah,
so
right.
when they say, "Hey, Ryan, you need to slow down a little bit," I probably should listen to them a little bit. So keep that in mind. Lots going on with technology. I think that is, we're just going to see nothing but growth in some of those programs. I know the State Patrol here in Colorado, they're shorthanded. They just can't get the slots filled. You know, people are retiring, people are exiting their career, and we just aren't getting the bodies in. I heard a story of a friend of mine who was real interested in becoming a state trooper, one of my former careers, and he came to me for advice and was talking to me about it. And he went to one of the career fairs, and he told me that, you know, there were people showing up there to talk to the State Patrol about getting a job, and they were wearing, you know, their slippers and their pajama bottoms, and I just shook my head. I mean, man, I know it's been a while, but back in my day when I did my law enforcement interviews, I was wearing a suit and tie type situation and showing respect. But it's just the environment we're in, you know. Luke, would you go to an interview in your pajamas?
You know, I'd say it depends on the interview.
Oh, jeez. So, yeah, it's real interesting. But the point that I'm trying to make is you get the right people, professional people, to fill some of these jobs. I think law enforcement agencies and as an entire across this nation are just absolutely struggling. This is not a fun time to be in law enforcement. So, what's the best solution? Well, we've got AI, we've got camera tech, we got all this great technology. So we're going to fulfill the need of issuing the same penalties. We're going to get all that money in, but hey, we can do it tenfold because the cameras are doing it and that kind of thing. So I think with technology, we're going to see this side of this industry explode. And you know, we have to prepare for the time. So, you know, you slow it down. Trucking companies, I know with your safety programs, your training, again, really look at that defensive driving. You know, really impress upon your staff that it's going to cost more money, be a lot more dangerous out there on the roadway and that type of thing. So really want to make sure that you're doing your part. Everybody else that just drives a regular four-wheel car, hey, slow down. Give those trucks the space, respect them, you know, and be a little bit safer out there on the roadway. What you're doing doesn't just involve you; it involves everybody around you and the livelihoods of those in those trucks that are really helping, you know, to get you your products that you're ordering from online, Amazon, you know, your groceries, everything you've got came to you by trucks. So keep that in mind and give them the respect that's due and the time that's due. So that being said, so fantastic. Well, we're here. This is going to be about mid-January. Hard to believe that we're already there to the end of the year. Hopefully you all are off to a great start. Luke, how's your I should say red beard. I keep having a hard time going back to the old red beard, but I know old Dean Teeter, he really enjoys me calling you red beard. So Dean, appreciate that. Luke, how's your new year off to? You off to a good start?
Off to a good start so far. I mean, nothing too crazy has happened for me. Just getting the plans out and laid out and start working towards goals. So
Luke had a big year last year. He got married, married a lovely young lady, Hannah. We love her to death, and you know, we're talking to him. He's wanting to start a family, buy a house, you know, get his life really going. He's off to a good start. So, Luke, congratulations with that, and we're excited to see, you know, what the future brings for you, that kind of thing. So, yeah, fantastic. Well, it was a good Christmas, good New Year. You know, that kind of thing. We're looking at. We've got some new clients coming in Front Range Compliance, so we're pretty excited about that. Yeah, lots still happening. You know, before we started this, we're talking about, hey, what's going to be my truck around and find out topic of the day? And Luke walked in, and I said it wrong. I said, well, what about the legalization of marijuana? And he looked like a turkey the way his neck popped up. Like, what? What are you talking about? They did not legalize it. I want to clarify that they did not, but what came out, right, again, it was right before Christmas. It's December 18th. President Trump went through and signed an executive order, directing the Department of Justice to basically reschedule marijuana from a Schedule 1 drug to a Schedule 3 drug. So in response to that, of course, our phones here at Front Range Compliance Services, our phones and our emails, inboxes, everything exploded. We had companies that just, instantly, okay, well, we're not testing anybody for marijuana anymore and yada, yada, yada. Okay, that is a knee-jerk reaction. Slow down. Okay, take a deep breath. Marijuana is not legal yet. There's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen before the U.S. Department of Transportation changes their rules and takes it off of one of the drug tests, that kind of thing, or to come up with rules of what their allowable tolerances are going to be. And I got to be real honest with you, I don't foresee them doing a whole lot when it comes to commercial motor vehicle and removing marijuana. I even though it's going to be a Schedule 3, I think they're just going to change the wording, but I think they're probably going to leave that into one of the banned substances. Quite frankly, the science just really isn't there to be able to tell, hey, when you consume a THC product, when are you able to drive again? There's just the science just isn't there yet. Like alcohol, you can tell. I mean, it's scientific fact that an individual who consumes alcohol is going to metabolize that alcohol at a certain rate. So you can tell, when the alcohol is going to be out of their system. Marijuana, there may be a way, but I don't think it's been discovered yet. So until that totally gets discovered, I don't foresee marijuana coming off of the banned substances list for DOT safety sensitive function.
Probably for the best too.
It does cause an impairment. I would definitely, as I tell everybody in our drug and alcohol and all of our clients, education is good. Make sure you're really talking to your drivers. A lot of people are interested. They might try something. We kind of slowed down now, but we'd have people come in and say, well, I just used a CBD product. And I will tell you, CBD, if you work with anybody that's in the marijuana industry, most of those individuals will tell you for the CBD to work, it needs to have the THC kicker, like a boost. So it like activates whatever the CBD is. So whatever you're using, the CBD for, or the marijuana for, that kind of thing, especially medical. I remember going back to my trooper days when it first went legal on the medical side, pulling people over and smelling weed. It was, before it went legal for medical, it was like, oh, this is going to be a good traffic stop. And it still was, because they were going to get a DUID, because even though you're using it for medical, it doesn't give you the license to drive while using. But I remember this one young man I pulled over, and he had his medical card. And I know you're not supposed to ask them, like, why do you have your medical card? But I just couldn't help myself. So I asked this young man, like, because he looked young, he looked healthy to me, and he showed me his first thing. He's like, I got my medical card. I'm like, oh, okay, well, why do you have a medical card? And he's like, oh, because I got shoulder pain. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I know lots of troopers with shoulder pain, and I don't think any one of us ever went through and said, hey, we need to go get some weed to combat our shoulder pain. But, hey, people do what people do. So that being said, when it comes to this THC stuff right now, if you truck around and find out with this, you definitely find out. And it's a huge, huge impact to your motor carrier, your safety scores, and that type of thing. And as we start to relax our rules based on personal thoughts, the one thing, especially since we, started our drug and alcohol testing program, which we've got a little over 2,000 drivers in that right now, one of the things that I've discovered is companies that, when they relax their drug and alcohol standards, or they're just not paying as much attention, maybe turning a blind eye, or saying, hey, well, if you smoke while you're off duty, we don't care. But there's a lot of shenanigans that happen in the drug and alcohol. But I have noticed that companies that kind of relax and take an easier approach to their drug and alcohol. Next thing you know, their entire team is affected. And when they decide to actually follow the real plan of what you're supposed to do, next thing you know, 50, 60% of their workforce all come in with positive tests. So this is not the time to ease up what you're supposed to do. Make sure you're adhering to the rules. If you need a drug and alcohol testing program, we can help. There's a lot of them out there. I will just tell you, some of them are good, some of them are bad. I will say here at Front Range Compliance, we're going to try to give you a good service to make sure that you are taken care of, that it's kind of like the easy button, making sure that that program is, of course, squared away and you're doing what's supposed to be doing. So stay up on top of that. Talk to your drivers, educate them on the uses of THC. Make sure that they understand, even though they're going to hear the rumors, the lovely truck stop lawyers that are going to say, "Oh, you can do this or you can do that." Pay attention to that stuff. Knowledge is power. Probably one of the best resources, if you're running a drug and alcohol program, one of the best resources that's out there just to help educate you is High Times Magazine. It's a great place to go read and learn. It's all online. Back in my trooper days, I subscribed to High Times Magazine. I lived in a small area. I could only imagine what my mail delivery guy thought when he was dropping the High Times Magazine off at the trooper's house. But, it was the one publication where the criminals go through and publish all their secrets. And a couple of my favorite articles that are in there, when you go to their website, is just type in how to pass a drug test. And the articles that are going to pop up, some of the stuff is really, really far-fetched. Like, hey, keep a condom full of urine. And then when you need it, throw that in your underwear. And I'm like, okay, who's going to walk around with basically a balloon full of urine? And, and it happens. I mean, I've had stories in our drug and alcohol where somebody went through and threw their balloon or condom of urine in the microwave and then stuck it in their pants and it ruptured. And that is that's like a no-fly zone, man. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I know my southern region, hot, like scalding water, that's going to make for a really bad day. Well, so, yeah. But you go through, you read this article, and then you kind of think back and you're like, you know what? Some of this makes sense. I've seen some of this stuff. Well, lo and behold, the people that are going to try to cheat a drug test, guess where they're going to figure out where to do it? Places like High Times Magazine, those articles that say, hey, do this, do that. It just really helps you be knowledgeable. Of course, I would not recommend trying to get your knowledge by going to a dispensary and, making some purchases that you shouldn't and that kind of thing. You are going to get some knowledge doing it that way. But we in this industry are pretty much banned from that, and it's really frowned upon. So I would say this, do the next best thing. Get knowledge. There's a lot of information online. You got High Times Magazine. Today we got the use of the vapes and things like that. So there's tons of that going around. Somebody could be using weed right in front of you and you don't even know it. But once you become aware of what the products are, and I talk about this a lot in my reasonable suspicion training, because individuals, they very much can be using THC right in front of you, and you're going to miss it. So unless you're knowledgeable, unless you become suspicious of certain behaviors, and you may not even know of those behaviors till you get educated on how this THC is used in the workplace and stuff like that. But there's definitely a problem right now with THC in the workplace. It came in again in 2025 as the number one tested substance, and it's number one by a landslide. It is out there. It is everywhere. Good education. If your supervisors are not trained in reasonable suspicion, they must be. And again, it's not just one supervisor for the company gets the training. It's any supervisor that has interaction with drivers needs to be trained. And don't just train once. Because you go through, it's like, oh, we did that training, but we did it 15 years ago. Well, number one, a lot's changed in 15 years. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you're retraining, you're refreshing. Bring that stuff from tucked way back in the back of their brain. Bring it to the forefront because they're seeing it. It's pretty alarming when you see the number of post-accident tests that have drugs in them and the number of reasonable suspicion tests. They are really, really lopsided. We're talking like very minuscule of the reasonable suspicion test and a very high number of positive tested drivers in a post-crash. So we as an industry, that's something that we need to improve on. So get trained, and also train your drivers. Let them be knowledgeable, and let them know that that is a no-fly zone within your company. So you don't have to truck around and find out, because that is bad when that stuff happens. So with that, that's going to bring us to the end of this episode of the Truck Around and Find Out. Hope you're all off to a great new year. Thank you for your day-to-day contribution to this society, putting up with the harassment out there on the roadways, and dealing with all the people that want to take your space around your vehicles, and being, I think, topmost some of the best professionals that are out there that just don't really get the recognition that is due. Indeed. So drivers, if you're listening to us, thank you for what you do. We really do really appreciate you here at Truck Around to Find Out and Front Range Compliance. With that being said, stay safe out there, keep our shiny side up, and we'll catch you on the next podcast.